Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, you're very welcome. This is Reading the Past and I'm Dr. Cat. Welcome to July and to another History News Roundup video. There is a playlist of the previous Roundup videos that this one will be added to and that I will leave linked in a card and in the description box. We do have some updates to previous headlines in today's video, so hopefully the playlist will make it easier to reference back if you should so choose to do. Without further ado, let's look at the history headlines from last month. As has become tradition, we're starting with developments and updates from stories we've looked at previously. First up, the ongoing discussions and activities relating to the Benin Bronzes. In June, Germany unveiled the German contact point for collections from colonial contexts, a digital database of over 1,100 objects, which offers provenance for them and images of them. The launch of this database does not mean the database is finished. Indeed, it will continue to be updated. Alex Greenberger, writing for artnews.com, points out that, quote, according to the provenances provided on the German contact point for collections from colonial contexts, many in the country's holdings were acquired from the British Museum around the turn of the 20th century. Objects on the site come from various institutions, including Berlin's Ethnology Museum, the Museum of Ethnology in Hamburg, and the Linden Museum, Stuttgart. Staying with the Benin Bronzes, on the 9th of June, the Metropolitan Museum of Art announced that it would be returning 3 artworks to Nigeria. 2 are brass Benin plaques, one of a warrior chief and the other of a junior court official, which, according to ArtNet's Naomi Rea, was sent to the British Museum and later transferred, along with 24 others, to the National Museum in Lagos in 1950. Their trajectory after that is foggy. They were never officially deaccessioned from the Nigerian Museum, but were traded at some point on the market and ended up in the hands of a New York collector who gifted his collection to the Met in 1991. The third piece being returned dates to the 14th century and was in a private collection. The Met has brokered the return. The move will, it is thought, put pressure on any other institutions to return any Benin bronzes they hold. The British Museum is thought to hold one of the largest collections, with 928 works. Another Benin bronze is held by Her Majesty the Queen in the Royal Collection. A spokesperson for the collection would not comment on any plans to return the item. The art newspaper's Martin Bailey laid out the journey that the piece is thought to have taken. Looted by the British in 1897 and acquired by an unidentified officer. Between 1946 and 1957, it came onto the London art market and was bought by the colonial government for Nigeria's planned National Museum. Subsequent investigations revealed how it made its second journey to London in 1973. This only emerged in 2002, when the bronze appeared in an exhibition in Buckingham Palace of gifts to the Queen. Until then, the head had been kept on a shelf in the Royal Library at Windsor Castle, along with curios such as a fragment of the Berlin Wall. In the Buckingham Palace display, it was labelled as a modern replica, presented to the Queen by the Nigerian President in June 1973. But it appeared to be a fine bronze and looked old. The art newspaper therefore wondered whether it might possibly be an original. Staying with updates about stolen objects of historical and cultural significance, police have released photographs of some paint-splattered ladders, that were used to break into Arundel Castle and steal a number of important artefacts, including the gold rosary beads believed to have been carried by Mary Queen of Scots at her execution. It seems, from the way this discovery is being reported, that police think the ladders themselves were stolen by the thieves, as they state that the ladders have clearly been well used over some years. The long ladder has distinctive black and yellow paint splashings, and each has some worn labelling. We hope that someone in the decorating or building trade, or maybe someone who just had them at home, will realise that they are now missing them and will contact us. Hopefully, Sussex Police will be contacted with usable information to bring the stolen items back to Arundel and public display. Moving on to the new news. A mosaic found in a Roman villa in Gloucestershire has been radiocarbon dated to the 5th century. As such, it is the first known discovery of its kind from such a late date. The find is rewriting our understanding of Britain after Roman rule. It had been thought that the end of Roman rule was a kind of watershed, after which the towns and villas were abandoned and left to fall to ruin. The date of this mosaic suggests, according to National Trust archaeologist Martin Papworth, quote, wealth and a mosaic industry that continued at least another 500 years longer than expected. There was another Roman discovery in last month's news. We heard that archaeologists in Israel have uncovered a 2,000-year-old Roman basilica. Due to its age, the building's creation dates to the reign of the biblical figure Herod the Great. It is being suggested that it may have been built on his orders. But wait, there's more Roman news. An abandoned cinema in Verona in northern Italy was being renovated, when construction workers found, in the basement of the building, a find that is being referred to as a miniature Pompeii. The 2nd century ruins are thought to have been abandoned following a fire. What the site was originally used for is yet to be determined, but the walls and floor contain a heating system. The floor is also tiled with decorative tesserae. The Italian Cultural Ministry called this, quote, a unique find, without any precedent in Italy. There's more news from Italy, specifically from the Medici Chapel at the Basilica of San Lorenzo, Florence, where stained marble statues by Michelangelo have been subjected to a novel cleaning technique. This might be a good time to point out that not all news headlines come with mealtime friendly stories. This next bit might be a no eating section for you, so maybe pause this till you're done. It is thought that the staining on the statues was caused by the internment of Alessandro Medici following his assassination in 1537. Prior to being laid to rest in the family chapel, apparently his remains were not properly eviscerated in preparation. We are told that compounds from his remains reached the marble and caused staining, some of which was impervious to previously known cleaning products. That's was and previously. Step up biologist Anna Rosa Sprocati. It was thought that the solution might be microbial. Sprocati set to work evaluating 1,000 strains of bacteria to find something that would eat the stain, but not Michelangelo's marbles. The long list was whittled down to 8, which were then patch tested in the chapel. One of the bacteria, called Serratia ficaria SH7, was particularly voracious. It ate oils, glue, and all of Alessandro's phosphates, leaving Michelangelo's marble sparkling white. The bacterium is non-hazardous to human health and does not leave spores. Archaeologists are hoping to find ways to understand and contextualise the habit of reopening graves and removing select grave goods that has been found to have been enacted around 1400 years ago, between roughly the 6th and 8th centuries across Europe. The practice, which has been found to have occurred at cemeteries from Transylvania to southern England, has often been dismissed as grave robbing. However, in a paper published on the 18th of June, it was explained that the individuals removing the grave goods, quote, made a careful selection of possessions to remove, especially taking brooches from women and swords from men. But they left behind lots of valuables, even precious metal objects, including necklace pendants of gold or silver. Results show burials most commonly being reopened within about a generation of internment, and sometimes less. The most frequent time frame for reopening was after soft tissue decay, but before any wooden container had collapsed or become filled with sediment. Grave reopening became part of a repertoire of possible engagements with mortuary remains over a wide geographic area. But motivations were probably driven as much by local concerns as by broadly shared understandings of death and its rights. Swords and brooches are some of the most symbolically laden objects in the graves. These were given as gifts and passed on as heirlooms. They're objects used to link people, including across generations. They bring stories and memories, so it's likely that they are retrieved for these reasons. Researchers point out that these types of items would not have had practical or economic use once removed from the grave. The question remains, if these removals were not robberies, what were they? There is evidence to suggest that Iron Age people were emotionally attached to objects. Investigations into an Iron Age roundhouse at the Scottish hill fort settlement at Broxmouth have shown that items like bone spoons, gaming pieces, and even worn-out grinding stones were deposited in the walls and floor. Dr. Lindsay Booster, an archaeologist at the University of York, provides the following context for these finds. Quote, everybody has that box of stuff in the attic, or in the cupboard, or under the bed, that they don't quite know what to do with, but they are not ready to throw away. Maybe it belongs to a deceased relative. Maybe it just belongs to our own social persona that doesn't exist anymore. I think that helps us to imagine Iron Age people as three-dimensional feeling people who had complicated relationships to each other just in the same way we do. Two 17th century paintings, one by Pietro Bellotti and the other by Samuel van Hoogstraten, were found in the bin at a motorway rest stop in Cologne. In the past, a Bellotti work sold for $190,000 at auction in 2010. Van Hoogstraten works have sold for as much as $788,000. Understandably, police in Germany are appealing for information about who may have owned the works and just how they ended up where they were found by an as yet unnamed 64-year-old man. Researchers from the University of Tel Aviv, working near the city of Ramla, have identified a partial skull and jaw as belonging to a previously unknown type of ancient human, one that lived alongside our species more than 100,000 years ago. They claim that this individual lived 140,000 to 120,000 years ago, and they suggest that it was among the ancestors of Neanderthals. Dr. Hyla May explains that this find shifts the understanding of human evolution and early migration. She explains that rather than being a European-centric story, quote, during interglacial periods, waves of humans migrated from the Middle East to Europe. The European Neanderthal actually began here in the Levant and migrated to Europe, while interbreeding with other groups of humans. The find of these remains is reported to have occurred in a location that also contained thousands of stone tools and bones of hunted animals. Dr. Yoshi Zeidner from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem explains that, quote, "It was a surprise that archaic humans were using tools normally associated with Homo sapiens. This suggests that there were interactions between the two groups. We think that it is only possible to learn how to make the tools through visual or oral learning. Our findings suggest that human evolution is far from simple and involved many dispersals, contacts, and interactions between different species of human." Some researchers connected to this investigation, including Professor Israel Hershkovitz, are asserting that there are clear connections between these fragments and another find currently under investigation. The find in question has been named Homo longi, or longi, or Dragon Man, and is described as being, quote, "a massive human head, one that was apparently hidden in a Chinese well to avoid it falling into the hands of Japanese occupiers." It is being reported that the skull, which is 23 centimetres long and more than 15 centimetres wide, is substantially larger than a modern human's and has ample room at 1,420 millilitres for a modern human brain. Beneath the thick brow ridge, the face has large, square eye sockets, but is delicate despite its size. As Professor Chris Stringer from the Natural History Museum in London points out, this guy had a huge head. While Chinese researchers believe the skull is distinct enough to make it a new species, Stringer is less sure of this. Professor John Hawkes from the University of Wisconsin-Madison is quoted as saying, "I think it's a bad moment in science to be naming new species among these large-brained humans that all interbred with each other. What we are repeatedly finding is that the differences in looks didn't mean much to these ancient people when it comes to breeding." Further to this, Professor Mark Maslin from UCL explains, "Genetic analysis shows that these species interacted and interbred. Our own genetics contain the legacy of many of these ghost species. But what is a sobering thought is that despite all this diversity, a new version of Homo sapiens emerged from Africa about 60,000 years ago, which clearly outcompeted, outbred, and even outfought these closely related species, causing their extinction. It is only by painstaking searching and analysis of their fossils, such as the Harbin skull, so this one, do we know of their existence." A painting belonging to an as yet unnamed family was sent to art restorer Antonella di Francesco after it fell off their wall. During the restoration process, the painting was found to be a lost Rembrandt, called The Adoration of the Magi, that was thought to have been painted in 1632 or 1633. The family that owns this work are said to be willing to loan it out to museums and galleries. It is thought to be worth between $83.7 million and $239 million. So that's 70 million euros to 200 million euros. Evidence of ancient dwellings has been discovered at a Bronze Age site located about 85 miles from Berlin. The site is known as Woodhenge, or the German Stonehenge. It was once a wood ring structure, which was reconstructed in 2016. It is suggested that the people who built this Woodhenge had ties to Stonehenge, and may even have visited it. Last month, there was more Stonehenge-adjacent news when we learned that archaeologists found a 10,000-year-old stone circle that is said to resemble Stonehenge beneath the waters of Lake Michigan. A carving of a mastodon has also been uncovered on one of these underwater rocks. The origins of these stones is less obvious than those of Stonehenge, and the shape they form is perfectly geometric. Joel Day, writing for The Express, explains that, quote, "Some descendants of the Anishinaabe believe they laid the stones for a sacred purpose. Meanwhile, the UK's Stonehenge also made the news last month, when UNESCO submitted a report to the World Heritage Committee detailing the status of various heritage sites around the world. In the report, Stonehenge was recommended for addition to the World Heritage in Danger list, due to plans by the British government to alter the landscape around it, namely through the creation of a tunnel that will allow the apparently heavy polluting A303 to be moved underground. The project is slated to cost £1.7 billion, or $2.2 billion. The committee is concerned that the tunnel will not be long enough and will be, quote, inadequate to protect the outstanding universal value of the property. A warning was issued in this vein in 2019, seemingly with little effect. UNESCO have now asked the UK government to send an updated report on the conservation plans for this Neolithic site before the next meeting session in 2022. Whatever is said in that report will play a large part in determining whether Stonehenge will be added to the World Heritage in Danger list. Also recommended for potential addition to this list are Venice, Italy, its surrounding lagoons, and Australia's Great Barrier Reef. However, in these cases, the threat is principally coming from climate change and the effects of mass tourism, rather than the, frankly, embarrassing decision to ignore professional, expert advice designed to keep a World Heritage site as safe as possible. Seriously, is it worth the risk? If this tunnel is needed to combat traffic and a build-up of pollution, surely you would just make it the length advised by the world's experts in heritage preservation, right? So this is editing me here. Hello again. I was going to end the video at this point until this last-minute history headline sneaked its way in under the end of month wire. What a minx! Scientists have found an ancient strain of the plague, caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, in the remains of a male in his 20s who died around 5,300 years ago. Researchers think he was bitten by a plague-carrying rodent and died not long after from septic shock. They believe the ancient strain that took this man's life emerged around 7,000 years ago, coinciding with the appearance of agriculture in Central Europe. Helen Briggs, BBC science correspondent, explains that the team investigating the find think the bacterium may have leaped sporadically from animals to humans without causing large outbreaks. Over time, it became adapted to infecting humans, eventually evolving into the form known as bubonic plague, that is spread by fleas and raged through medieval Europe, causing millions of deaths. The idea that early strains of plague were slow to spread challenges many theories about the development of human civilization in Europe and Asia, and it cast doubt on the hypothesis that the disease caused large population declines in Western Europe at the end of the Neolithic Age. Other researchers have welcomed the study, but say it does not rule out the possibility that plague was spreading widely in Europe at this time. I'm guessing that one of the best, if not the only, ways to prove that plague was in fact responsible for population decline at the end of the Neolithic period would be the discovery of one or perhaps many grouped burials or burial pits filled with Neolithic people infected with Yersinia pestis. But what do you think? As always, I'm looking forward to reading your conversations in the comment section underneath this video. or you can find me on social media. I'll leave links to my Instagram and Twitter in the description box. Follow me there and we can continue this conversation. I do hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, why not share it with some friends? Please also let me know you liked it by hitting the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. And if you think you're subscribed, maybe have a little check now. Make sure YouTube hasn't mysteriously unsubscribed you. While you're there, checking, subscribing, maybe resubscribing, why not also hit the bell icon that's beside the subscribe button so that YouTube tells you when I've next uploaded. I hope you're going to have a great day, whatever you're doing, and I look forward to speaking to you all in my next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye for now.